What do we do when we know that there are changes we need to make in our life, right? We know that there's a future that needs to be thought about, planned for, dealt with to some degree, but then we look at the news for 5 minutes. We just look around at what's going on around us and we see how unbelievably unpredictable and just hanging on by a thread all the systems of everything going on in the world are around us. It's a little scary when you focus on it. So how do we move forward and do what we need to do for our lives, for our children's lives? Heck, even thinking about our grandchildren's lives. How do we do that in a world that is just wrought with so much turmoil? This is Heavenly Mind at Home, where faith meets real life prepping. Biblical truth cuts through the chaos, and women rise to live set apart. So subscribe, join the remnant, and let's build a heavenly minded home together. So before we get into it, be sure to hit that like button and say hello to Lois. Hello, friends, and good morning. I'm doing like I said in the video the other day, rewiring my brain, right? I'm working on my brain rot. I'm working on my attention span, my mental health, my clarity. Out here, I've already walked this morning. I'm sitting outside, not jumping on a screen first thing in the morning. And so now that I'm finishing up my coffee and sitting here, I said, okay, it's been enough time, been up for a while. Let me go ahead and chat with some friends, because as I've been sitting here just observing, reflecting, thinking about some really big things that are going on in my life with my family, because we all got those big things that are going on in our lives with our family. As I've been doing that, I've been like, it's one thing to think about the things that are going on and what I think we should do, what I feel, the Lord nudging us to do. But how do we balance that with a world that's a little chaotic? I think a lot of us felt this in like 2020 when we were thinking of, what do I do next with my life? How long is this going to last? What all is going to change, right? It was a little kind of intimidating when maybe you got furloughed, right? Maybe all of a sudden your kids were home, you're not used to them being home, right? Whatever the case might have been, where all of a sudden this big change happened. Or even for us, we already homeschooled and worked from home and did things online, but like the future outlook of what life was going to be was a little iffy. Sometimes we know that there's things that we need to think about in our future, but when it comes down to figuring out what they're going to be, that's hard to do when things don't look very clear. Things look a little iffy. And then there's like big scare. I mean, we're like looming on the edge of World War III. Okay, so that's a big thing to be like, what? I don't know. I mean, I have our oldest. He's 20. He'll be 21 this fall, and definitely we've had those conversations with him, and then as a family, as even his sisters. We're not a household that just keeps the news blaring 24/7, but of course you read things, you see things. I mean, it's not that I have no idea what's going on. I just don't let it narrate my life and, drive how I'm going to feel every day. There's one thing to be informed. There's another thing to be consumed. So weigh yourself on where you think you are on that spectrum. Am I the only person who does that? Okay. Maybe it's just me who's like, yeah, I'll be informed. I don't want to be consumed. Maybe I'm the crazy one. I don't know. Let me know. But we were talking about this and talking with our son about, wow, like what do you think is going to happen here? What do you think Russia's going to do? How do you think Ukraine's going to respond? Like, how involved do you think we'll be? What do you think China's going to do, right? Like, we've had those kind of speculative conversations. And honestly, my son, who is a massive history buff, he's going around, he's like, I don't see how this isn't World War III. I don't see how we get to a point where everything's okay. And I don't know, it's in the Lord's time, and any of us who pay any form of attention to just end-time prophecy, we're seeing all the pieces kind of falling together as scripture said they would. So it's like, I don't know how close we are, but it could get a lot worse before it could just get a lot worse. And so we kind of look at that and it's like, man, like how, I can't imagine being a 20-year-old guy trying to put together all your pieces with, you know, your next step of college or career, or right? Like figuring out the different pieces and places of where you want to go. Well, something like World War III is just looming. You know, when a storm's rolling in and you just see the big, I'm from the desert of Southern California. And so out there, you'd like look up on the mesa and you could see when a huge storm was rolling in. You literally could like watch it, you know, come toward you. And sometimes I feel like it feels that way, right? Like he's standing there kind of looking out on the horizon of like, where's he going to go? What's he going to do? And then there's this like World War III, like, you know, like kind of coming in at you that like, hey, it might break up, it might go away, or it might, you know. And so it's interesting as we think about this of like, what are we planning? What are we doing next? Where do we feel the Lord calling us? Where should we be, you know, putting our focus and attention? And then you look around at the world and I don't know. I think there's a lot of good things happening that I think will take time, but in the ideal world, they should be good. A lot can happen, a lot can change. Who knows, right? I certainly don't know. What do I know, right? Like, but you look at these things and you go, oh, okay, you know, maybe something will happen. But what do we do when we know that we need to think about our future, our children's future, what's next, right? What we're doing. I don't want to live in the past, and I don't want to be completely consumed with the future. I want to be present in the present. But I know that in order to be a wise steward, I do need to have that one eye that's looking ahead, right? We have these ducks. They're so cute. And it's so fun to watch them sleep because they sleep with one eye shut and one eye open, because they're always like, I'm asleep, but I'm also keeping an eye on what's going on, right? So like I'm crashed out over here, but I'm also seeing that the dog's over there and I'm keeping an eye on you, right? So you think of that in our lives and it's like, okay, how do I do the things I need to do? Fully enjoy where I'm at today and what's going on, and, you know, my children and my husband and those around me, and absolutely. But how do I plan accordingly when this circus show is what I'm having to plan in accordance to? How does that work? And so as I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I'm thinking we got some big changes that are coming. Like, we've been weighing through some things, big things, going, something has to change, something has to happen. How it's going right now isn't working, right? I firmly believe that our homes need to be in order. And when you are feeling like your home is not in order, that is the Lord prompting you and calling you to line it back up, right? And so there have been big things that we've been like, okay, what are we going to do? And so that's great. That's happening. And then it's kind of like that refinement of, well, what about this idea? Okay, that could be really great for this. Ooh, but what about boom, boom, boom? Nope, that's not going to work, right? Or what about this idea? But rising cost of this, uncertainty of that, you know, real life stuff that could be happening. Maybe that's not what we should go to now. Maybe we should put that on the shelf and see if, you know, if the Lord brings it back up later. I don't know. And then the more that we've kind of been refining these ideas and really thinking through them and going, okay, what do we feel the Lord really calling us to do? What is it? Maybe that's not clear. I, for years, have felt like, practically speaking, numbers on paper, we should move, we should do something else. And every time that I have been just like sick and torn up, going, oh, this isn't working, oh, something needs to change, whatever, the still small voice of the Lord deep down in my spirit has just said, stay put, stay put, stay put, stay put. My home is not perfect by any means, not even a little bit, okay? It's not my dream home. I am way too close to the interstate, although it is beautiful and lovely and all of that. When I sit out here, I can hear the rumble of cars going down I-40, okay? And it doesn't help that my crazy neighbor behind us has cut down, there used to be like a forest in between us, and he cut down all those trees. For whatever reason, I don't know. He cut them all down. And then the hurricane happened and even more fell down. Trees came down all over. And so I now have like a clear shot to the interstate, okay? It is awful. It drives me bananas. So trust me when I say that that still small voice telling me to stay put wasn't like, okay, cool, I get to stay in my happy little spot. It was, are you serious? Really? I mean, I love many, many things about our home, but it's not my end all be all. I'm so glad I'm here. Let's make all of our plans around that, okay? Just laying it out there. You know, sometimes you watch things online and you go, oh yay, everything looks great. I make it as comfy and cozy and wonderful as I possibly can. I want to see the beauty in each and every day, but is it perfect? Far from it. So just a little side note there. When I look at this, I go, okay, Lord, you're telling us to stay here. Lord, you're keeping us here in this spot. Lord, you keep putting this on my heart. So when I look at the changes we need to make and how we plan for the future, I have to first consult, Lord, where do I feel that you're really driving us? Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I no matter how much I pray about it, how much I just sit and think through it, I don't know. And so I'll kind of start taking a step left to see if that's not it and I need to go right. Because sometimes it takes going, Lord, I don't know. So let me start moving and slam doors in my face and light up neon lights to help direct me and guide me in where I need to go. Because as we're sitting down and we're looking at this, I'm going, okay, the world is bonkers and only looking to get more bonkers. I don't want to be so reliant on the world systems. I'm sorry. Hurricane Helene, which I'm sure you're probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about, but those of you who are in the area, I know because you guys leave comments and I feel like we're all kind of on the same page, even though our lives are all very different. After going through such a catastrophic event, I feel like a lot of us are on the same page. That showed me so vividly that we rely so much on the systems of this world. So much. When you have no power, no water, right? No internet, no access to grocery stores, no access to normal things. The interstate was like washed off of the mountain, okay? Things couldn't get in. Things could kind of, like you had bits and pieces where kind of you could make it. It was, everything came to a halt. Everything. And it's not like, oh, let us just get the water and the power back on. The systems were destroyed. So it wasn't just, oh, we got to go flip the switch back on. The water tower, not the water towers, but the water stations, purification stations or whatever for the water, literally were submerged. they like non-accessible. Power lines were gone. I mean, it just came through and snapped everything like twigs, just shoo, gone. Trees, power lines, you name it, gone. And that was such a wake-up call to go, wow, we rely so heavily on the systems of this world. Even though I feel like we're really laid back, we kind of keep to ourselves, we do things very different. Like, I feel like we are pretty different in that way. We're still way too connected. I rely so much on utilities, the store, right? Being able to get regular deliveries of things, be it, Amazon, Walmart, whatever, right? Like, I rely so heavily on that. So I'm certainly not saying that I plan to go 1,000% off grid and I'm not still going to utilize things. I don't think, honestly, that's super realistic. And I don't think that necessarily that is what is in our best interest or our children's or our future's best interest. But looking back to how our ancestors lived for generations upon generations, they were so much more self-reliant. They had to be. There was no choice. Most of us aren't anymore at all, and myself included. I don't want to be so dependent. I don't want my children to only know dependence upon the systems. How many of our kids would be totally fine going for a week, we'll just say 1 week, no power, no water, no internet, no just popping by the grocery store, right? Having to build our own fires, to heat our own water, to do our, right? You go through all those things. And for us, when we were doing that after Helene, you know, what's funny is as difficult as it was, and it wasn't until kind of things were going on that we started to find out just how destructive it was everywhere. I mean, we're cut off from all communication and all everything. Phones weren't working, things like that. So we were kind of like little bit by little bit, kind of hearing through the grapevine what even happened and how widespread and just deadly it was. But that time, for as difficult as it was, having to haul water up from our creek, having to boil it on top of a burn barrel with a makeshift grate with wood that we were drying out and then burning, you know, ourselves. I mean, just all of the intricacies of what you have to do to just do very basic life things when you have no access to anything. Our days were kind of awesome. You weren't caught up with all the noise of all the things because you worked all day to make sure that you could have a meal by the end of it. It was all hands on deck. Everybody has to come together. You're not sitting around. There's no time to be bored because you have all of this needing to happen. And you don't have just a light switch you can flick or a faucet you can turn on, right? All of a sudden now, things are really different. And when we stopped being so just complacent upon a system, I just trust that the government's going to provide everything. The corporations are going to provide everything, right? Like when all of a sudden that didn't exist and it was up to us. Well, we're going to learn today. And we did. And then as we went through and figured out, you know, oh, hey, I'm actually kind of good at this. I'll work on this part here. And hey, you're doing really good at that. You want to do that part? And hey, we can do this together, right? We started doing this so differently. And by the end of the day, you were exhausted. There was no insomnia keeping me up all night while I'm sitting there staring at my little phone because, well, heck, I haven't had power in days. And I worked so hard just to make sure that we had purified water, a meal, a fire still going, that I'm exhausted. I'm done. I fell asleep so quickly. Even though I was in a hot, muggy house, even though I didn't have my fan that I was used to, even though, you know, there wasn't my little sound machine going that, you know, my husband uses every night, we've gotten so accustomed to. Like, when we made that drastic shift and had no choice, it was incredible how we notice things we never would have noticed otherwise. And so when I look forward now, going, okay, we've really gone back and gotten back to being comfortable with convenience. How do we move forward? Reassessing a little bit where we should be. I don't think I want to be this comfortable with convenience. Because if the chaos of the world is showing us anything, it's that we really shouldn't be depending on it like we are. We shouldn't. It is so unpredictable. You can't control anything that's going on. You can't control when you get laid off. You can't control when grocery store shelves go empty. You can't control when prices go through the roof. You can't control when the bottom falls out of the market. Like, you can't control if World War III happens. And this shouldn't make us just sit here in fear and panic. It should make us go, you know, as I'm thinking through what's next, what lies ahead, where we're going to next, what's going to happen for our kids, right? Like what pieces we're setting up, how we're being wise stewards and thinking forward with what it all is. I'm going to move forward where the Lord's calling me first and foremost. But I'm going to move forward looking at this and going, how can I be more self-reliant? How can I start adjusting and pivoting in my life so that I am not solely dependent upon the systems of this world? What happens if you lose your job? Grocery stores aren't reliable, right? Like, what happens if something changes and you can't keep moving along the way you do? Shouldn't we take a page out of the book of our great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, and learn to be a little more self-sufficient? I think we should. And so looking forward in our lives, I mean, there are very simple things that we can start to do to not only rely on our power being on. I'm looking at some of the projections that they have for storm systems this year, and it is a little scary considering some of the markers that were the same markers last year that ended up with us having Hurricane Helene are looking to be the same this year. I'm not saying that Hurricane Helene is going to happen again. I don't think that that's going to happen, but it's a little interesting. I saw some articles pop up and they were like, so this is kind of what happened last year, and then we ended up with Hurricane Helene. This is also happening this year as well. Does this mean that this is going to be, I don't know, but I saw that and was like, am I ready for that? If that were to be what happened, did I learn from last time, and would I actually be ready? Looking at the way the world is going, where is the Lord calling me? What can I do to start being self-sufficient and not rely on my power being on, running water in the house, grocery stores having everything I want when I want it, prices being what I can afford or kind of afford, jobs just being there, things just happening the way I'm used to them happening. What can I start doing, and how can I start adjusting where I'm going and what's up ahead and the preparation for my children and everything else, taking all of that into account? Because I think we'd be wise to do that. What do you think, right? Do you feel any of this? Do you look at any of this and go, man, you're right. If my power went out for an extended period, I would be all over the place. If I couldn't get to the regular stores I go to, what would I do? If I couldn't just have stuff shipped in, right? How would I get by? What are you doing? What are you seeing? I think this should be a conversation, right? That's why we're friends. We're sitting out here having coffee that's now kind of cold. I got to go in and top it off. But what are you thinking? How are you adjusting? How are you looking to the future? With all of the chaos and everything going on, how are you planning? Because I think we need to keep this conversation going. And I think we also need to be practically trying things out and seeing what works and sharing with one another so that we can learn and grow and move forward, right? So as I've been sitting out here enjoying the lovely morning, it was like 52 degrees when I came out here this morning. It was gorgeous. It's gonna be warmer today, but it was really nice this morning. I'm sitting here and I'm enjoying, and I'm really just thinking, and how do we move forward? How do we do this with a world that is so, whatever term you want to give to it, it is what it is. So leave me a comment. Let me know. I've shared with you guys before, little YouTube trick. If you want to see more videos like this because you want to talk about real things and you want to have real conversations, and Lord, how do we lead our lives and move forward and make the most out of every day while being wise stewards and truly just transforming the areas that matter most in life? Yes, subscribe and turn on your little bell notifications. If you thought you were subscribed, I would double check that. A lot of people are saying that they were totally subscribed to a channel and now it's like just not anymore. So double check that. But if you want YouTube, right, you know, on your little page where you first get on, if you want it to actually show you the stuff that you really want to see, little trick for you, comment below, like this video, share it with a friend, right? Share it with someone who maybe has been having this conversation or thinking about this, or you know is kind of like, ooh, this is something that's big. Share it, pass it on, and then it's going to start telling YouTube these are the types of videos that you want to see. Surprise, that's how it worked. I just learned about that the other day, so I've been trying to be intentional about those things with the content that I want to be watching as well. And then the next thing you can do that is a surefire way to help these videos be actually showing up where you want to see them. Come on, shouldn't be that difficult, but apparently it is. Watch another video. I think this one will help you out, so I think you would actually genuinely enjoy it. But the more you watch, the more it shows you the things that you want to watch. Imagine that. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Big things to take to prayer, big conversations to have, but oh, so worth it. Thanks for hanging out with me, friend. I'm going to go refill my coffee, kind of finish up my time. My kiddos are waking up. I'm going to get some time with them, and I will see you all right back here in this video that you're going to go watch, obviously. Bye.